And then I guess I'll start. Okay, YouTube says I'm live, so I'm going to assume that it's not lying to me. Cool. Alright, so this is specifically about how I achieve the look that you're seeing right here, which is done in Moho, formerly Anime Studio, and it's using a feature that isn't really talked about that much called multi-brushes, and I can explain how they work and how to apply them and how I'm specifically using them to get this effect going right here. And if you have any questions about how I'm doing it and I'm not really covering it, or you missed it from earlier, just ask and I can go over anything you want. So let's see where to begin. We can start by going into Moho here. This is the scene I'm going to be working on. So I already animated this character the other day when I did my first stream, and I didn't have the dumpster in place yet, but you can see that I've drawn the dumpster getting kicked over, and so I want to apply color to that so it has that same kind of wiggly look that the rest of my cartoon will have. So I just need to go to... Oh, I know where it is. There's a special folder where I keep these brushes that I'm talking about, so I'm going to go there now. Here we go. Okay, so there's when you first start up Moho, it's going to ask you if you want to create a custom content folder. And once you create one of those, this is where it saves any kind of brushes or scripts and things that you create. And brushes are what we're going to focus on right now. So if you go to, if you make a stroke in Moho, I have to stop myself from saying Anime Studio because I've been using that for a couple years now, and it just recently became Moho instead, so I'm still getting used to that. But just to give a quick little example here. So here's a basic stroke with the line art tool in Moho. And there isn't any kind of fancy brush applied to this yet, it's just a black blob. But if you select it and you go here where my mouse is wiggling, where it says no brush, click on that and you get this palette of all these different brushes. Most of these are defaults and they come with the program. But there's a special folder where you can add your own brushes, and they'll show up here immediately if you do that. You might have to restart the program first actually, but they show up pretty easily. So let's say I select this one here. This is one of the default brushes. So it has this texture to it now, and actually if you drag the stroke around and the points on it around, it morphs and it moves with that stroke and it follows it. You can also change the color of it and all that fun stuff too. But if you notice here, it's kind of hard to see on the stream probably, but there are certain brushes in this palette that have these 3 dots in the top left corner, and that means it's a multi-brush. And so what that means is, instead of it being this one stamp or this one image that gets strung along the whole stroke, there's actually a series of images. I won't tell you how many here, there could be more than 3, but for this one, for example, if I adjust the spacing here to be much farther apart, yeah, there we go, that's good. So if I put these really far apart, like so, and I'll make this black again so they're easier to see, you can see that each of these brush blobs is different. They're also rotating, so there's even more variance there. So if I turn off the brush angle jitter, and I'll turn off random order. Okay, now it's really, it's more obvious what's happening here. So there are these specific blob brushes, and I hand painted these in Manga Studio or Clip Studio Paint using some custom brushes that I have. And so what Moho can do is apply these little images that you've saved into a folder somewhere and string them along your stroke in the program. And it displays them in a random order too. You can have the, well, you have to check that as an option, but you check random order, and if you decrease the spacing so they're a lot closer together, and you can turn up the angle jitter or the drift. You have all these options here for adding more variance to the stroke, but if you tweak that enough and you include enough images in your multi-brush, then it becomes this very natural looking shape. And I think the biggest benefit of using a multi-brush over just a singular brush from this palette is this option here. It says minimize frame to frame randomness, and if you uncheck that, then when you render an animation that uses this brush, on each frame of the animation it will actually resample these so they're in a completely different order, and the result of that is this kind of look. All of these orange and blue parts that you see on this character are those same strokes that I'm showing here. They're just that the same vector art with a brush applied to it, and I just curve them around the form of the character, and then I mask them, and so they end up looking like this. And the frame rate can be an issue, so you want to keep your, I would suggest anyway, keeping your composition to 12 frames per second, or if you're working at 24 frames per second, you can export at half frame rate, which does the same thing. And then that gives this nice hand-painted look. So it, if you make your lines a little squiggly, it actually ends up looking like you painted this by hand when you didn't, and you saved a lot of time. So you can trick people into thinking that you did more work than you actually did. Although it can take a lot of work to set this up, so I don't want to say that this is easy. It's just, it ends up being pretty efficient once you get it going. So, hold on, let me see how many people are actually in here. One person watching now? Okay, well, I didn't give a lot of notice on this one, so this is kind of stealthily going up anyway. So anyway, I've been talking about that mysterious folder where all of the brushes go, and I want to actually show that to you now. So, yeah, here you go. This is in the custom content folder, and that texture we were just looking at, I called it wash. It's supposed to look like a watercolor wash. So these are 5 brush samples that I painted in a raster program. It was probably Manga Studio, and I exported each one and saved them here. They're fairly large too. They don't have to be this big, but I want to be able to export these character animations at a really high size. So I wanted to make sure that the brush samples wouldn't look blurry if I scaled them up too much. So that's the gist of it. Again, if anyone is watching and has questions, I can go into more details about that. So that's the explanation of it. But now I can actually go in and show you how it works. So let's see. I've got my dumpster line art layer here. Here's the very basis of it. So I drew this out, and then I made a clone of it. Well, not a reference layer, just a duplicate of it. They're not tied together in any way. But I duplicated it, and I put the duplicate underneath, and then I filled everything with white. And this is important because the white is going to act as the masking area. Then I have I've already started this, I just have this one brush that's just applied here, and this is just like I was showing before. It's a simple stroke with 4 points to it, and I've applied that same wash multi-brush to it. So actually let's do this right now. I'll hide everything else, and if I just render this real quick, let's go to frame 1 through 20, and I'll render it as an MP4. Yeah, I want to render at half frame rate on. That's rather important. So let's see what happens when I render that. Hopefully it doesn't give me any problems with that. There we go. So if I play it, you can see now that well, I don't know how to loop, but with the render you can see that on each frame the brush texture is shifting around, and that's the look that I want to get. And the reason that it's wiggling each time on each frame is again because I've gone into the brush settings and I've turned off minimize frame to frame randomness. If I had that on, then it would look exactly like you see here on every frame and it wouldn't wiggle around. And sometimes you might want that. But for what we're doing here, we definitely want this off. Okay, so that's the basis of it. So then once I have this stroke drawn out, I want to go to the other frames and I'll just start keyframing this out and moving it to go along with the animation. So I'll just do that real quick here. And it's okay to actually go outside of the lines here because I actually have this as a mask. The mask is disabled while I'm working on the layer itself, but if I click onto the masking layer, the white fill layer that I mentioned, you can see that it masks when I go outside of the dumpster outline. So you can be a little messy here. Now I do have all the white that you see is just one big shape. I haven't divided this into multiple shapes to keep the inside of the coloring that neat because I just want to keep it a little bit loose. Plus it would take a lot of work to make 3 or more masks just for this. So I want to see how it looks just by treating the white as one shape for now. And if I really need to go back and define it more in the future once this is done, I can do that. So since this is getting a little smaller, I'm going to decrease the line width, or, yeah, the line width, just so it fits into this decreasing shape size a little bit better. There we go. Okay, so at this point you can barely see it at all if I'm working on this stripe right here. Okay, so just want to make sure that's okay. I've animated the dumpster on 2s, so I actually want to select all the keyframes I just made and set it to interval 2. So let me select the dumpster layer and okay. Yeah, it looks like I get some gaps in some parts of this, so I want to just, there we go, that should help a little bit. Okay, so just so we can see how that looks like when it's rendered, I'll do it from frame 60 to frame 96. Yeah. Okay, I'll make this an MP4 again, and let's see how that looks. Oh. Well, luckily that was just the rendering engine that crashed and not Moho itself. But, I wonder... well, okay, I guess we're not checking that yet. So, I've just put in this one color here, and I actually want the center stripe on the front and the side to be yellow. everything else should be green though. So, okay, we've done that one shape. I think what I'll try next is I'll copy this and put this over here so we can start the next part. So this is the part where it really just becomes more of a live stream, watch me work, ask questions kind of thing, and not really a tutorial. Because I'm just going to keep working through this, and if something occurs to me, I'll explain what's going on. But let me check the chat to see if there's any questions that I'm missing. Okay, I'm fine so far, so I'll keep working. One thing that I could have done, since most of this dumpster is going to be this green color, is I could have just made one huge brush and slapped it onto the whole thing, and then later put yellow on top of it. And that might actually be the better thing to do. I suppose I could stop what I'm doing right now and try it, but there's actually not that much more to do. But the concern I had with doing it that way is that big green brush would cover even the parts that are going to be yellow. So if I put the yellow on top, none of these brushes are 100% opaque, so it wouldn't really be the yellow color that I intended anymore. It would be yellow on top of a green, and they'd mix together, and I don't really want that. So I think it's okay just to do it this way. Okay, these two shapes here actually just go on top at this point, just because from this frame going forward you don't even see this side anymore. But alright, we've got the two stripes there. Why don't we do... Oh, this is a good idea here, actually. I'll copy this again, and then for this side of the dumpster, I'm actually going to try what I was just saying. I'll just have this entire side be one really big green shape. And I'm adding more points to this one because it's going to be larger. Because, I mean, I could have this just be one simple line with just a few points on it and make the texture really big like this to cover everything, but then that wouldn't match the characters who don't have brush strokes that are that large, and it would just end up looking a little strange. So I want to keep them pretty small. So I might actually make them a little bit bigger than what I'm doing right now. Let me try that. Just go with something like this. Yeah. Yeah, and you can see that on the edges of these brush samples that I made, they kind of feather out and fade away at the edges, so if I want to keep this looking pretty well painted in green, I want to extend the brushes pretty well outside of the shape that I've made. So that should end up looking good. If I apply the mask, you can see it's actually starting to look like this hand-painted texture, and I want there to be a little bit of lighter areas and this cloudy look, because I think that's what makes it look a bit more legit. You know, while I'm doing this, I may as well just add it to the top too. Okay. So that's frame 1 of that. Go over here, start keyframing. Probably handle the bottom of this too for now. Although I think I'd make the bottom a darker color, so I'm not going to worry about this one quite yet. So just to recap, on this side of the dumpster, after I've finished with this part, I'm going to add a yellow brush color on this stripe. And also right here where I'm keeping this clear, because I want to see which looks better. I think keeping it white and then adding the yellow color and keeping it on its own instead of on top of the green, I think that will look better. But I could be wrong. They could end up looking mostly the same, but since these aren't, I know these aren't 100% opaque brushes, so I want to see what I'm doing there. I'm not worrying about the bottom of the dumpster that much, since it is probably going to be a different color than green. I want there to be something dark. I'm really enjoying how the new curve tool in this program works. Being able to control these independently is actually a new feature here. Okay, those last few frames are pretty easy. Okay, how is that looking so far? I'm just playing back the animation now. Nice, alright. Let's try rendering that again, since we have done everything except the yellow and whatever the underside of the dumpster is going to be. I wonder if I can just preview the animation. Oh, right, no, that's just more like a play blast if you are familiar with Maya. I don't want that. I actually need to export it. So let's try this again. MP4, all those settings are fine. Let's try that. Good. Yeah, that's looking like how I expected it to. The line art that I have for this dumpster actually doesn't have this effect applied to it, and usually that's what I do. All of the characters I have, in addition to having this kind of texture applied to them as a mask for their fill color, their outlines are also this same effect, where it's a multi-brush applied to a stroke. And I use a different multi-brush for that. This is that kind of feathery watercolor wash look, but I have these much more dense graphite looking brushes, and I use those for character outlines. So I'll be applying that to the dumpster, and I'll pick some kind of color for it too. I might try a light green if that doesn't look too strange, but I could just go with a really dark brown or a dark purple or something like that. Alright, so let's go back to frame 1 is fine. I'll copy this one more time, put it over here. I'm copying these shapes that already have all this vector point data and animation data applied to it, so I'm just deleting that every time because I want this to be fresh. So I'll click on this center one, and instead of the green color, let's see, what do we want? Something that's nice. That red-orange color. Let's go with that. Okay, so I'm going to apply that. And same as it has been. Start here and just move this along. I'm trying not to have this stick up too much into this area because I need to do something else with that. And I'm also realizing that just for the first 2 frames only, there's this lip on the top of the dumpster, and so that might need an additional color as well, just to emphasize it. I like how these colors are looking so far. The goal of this is to have this look like a hand-painted watercolor prop, and the watercolor job is somewhat rough, so it's not completely neat and perfect and inside the lines, you know, it's a little more loose than that. So that's what I'm hoping to have this look like. And it, even from this preview where it's not rendered and you're not seeing it at full fidelity, it's already looking pretty close to that. So I'm excited to see this when it's finished. Yeah, there's the look with the mask applied, and then it looks like there's this corner right there that it's not really getting into, so I want to make sure that I have to make the stroke a little smaller on these frames here. And again, right, I have to make sure that I get this as far into that corner as I can without it bleeding into the green areas too much. I want there to be a little bit of overlap and bleed, but not that much. Just something like this amount here is fine. Okay. And then that should be the last frame that I needed. Yeah. That's good. Okay. Okay, so that's what that method looks like, where I try to keep each color area separate. So now, hold on, I'm just correcting some keyframe issues I noticed. Since I'm animating on 2s and I have interval 2 happening, I'm trying to keep all of my keyframes on odd numbers because that keeps the preview in sync with how I'm going to export it. I always export my animations at half frame rate, so this document is set to 24 frames per second, but I export it at half frame rate, so it's actually 12 frames per second, and that's what keeps the, if you look at this again, that's what keeps the brushes resampling and wiggling at that slower rate. That's 12 frames per second there. If it were 24, it would be going way, way too fast, and it would look disorienting and probably make some people queasy, so I don't want to do that. It's also just more realistic to how I would work, where if I were actually hand painting every frame of this on paper and then scanning it in and all that, I wouldn't make 24 watercolor character paintings for 1 second of animation. That would be way too many. Even 12 is a lot for one person to do, but it's at least a bit more realistic to what you'd expect. So I think 12 frames per second, even though it can be a little choppy at times, I think that works best. It has kind of an artsy, authentic look to it, I think. Okay, so let's try applying the orange to this stripe that I didn't keep clear. So there's green underneath this one. And yeah, there's already a difference that you can see there. Where here, there are these cloudy patches where you can see through the orange and you see white, which is the fill color that's underneath everything. But over here, when you see through the orange, it becomes green instead. And, well, I think I do prefer the version on the right here, where it's orange on white instead of orange on green. There might be something I can do to help that. Let me try this. Let's pretend I've already finished this orange brush placement, and then let's copy it and put it in place there. And select the top one, change it to white. And then I'm actually going to move this down by 1, so I lower the shape. So now, that's interesting. So now it's a green. If you imagine the shape order as layers, there's the green shape on the bottom, then there's a white shape, and then on top of that is a orange shape. So that's one way I could do it. But then you have this white bleeding out on top of the green, which I don't think looks that great. So, I'll get rid of the white. Oh, I got rid of both. Hold on. There. I'll just undo it. There we go. Okay. Well, I'll animate this one out and see what I want to do. I may just go with this look here where it's on green. I think it looks a little better on white, but in the end this is only on here for a few seconds, and then I never use this dumpster prop again, so it may not be worth it. I mean, most people aren't going to be staring at this anyway. There's going to be staring at the character that's kicking it over. And I want them to be staring at the character instead of this anyway, so I don't really want to put too much effort into a background piece. There's 3 people watching, that's great. If you have questions, just ask. I can go over other parts related to this, or even if you have a completely random, unrelated question, I can still dive in and try to answer that while I work. I'm pretty sure I can do 2 things at once, so give it a shot. We'll see. After this, I'll add a dark color brush to this bottom area here. And I think that'll actually work to its benefit being on top of the green, because then it'll look even darker. It won't have any white peeking out from beneath it. Okay, that's the last of that. So now, yeah, we've got the orange parts and the, yeah, some of these are bleeding out a little too much though. I want to try and fix that. I'm hoping this helps the people that were asking about how I get this character color look. I'm hoping that explaining it via a prop instead of a character does the trick, because it's exactly the same process. If this were a character, then after I've done all this, I would apply some bones to this shape, and I would make sure that not only are the points for the shape itself binding to the bones, but I would also bind the brushes here for the texture to follow the same bone. That way the texture moves around with the character art as well. I think that's the only difference between doing this for a prop versus a character, really. And if you're working with smart bones, you can have these affected by smart bones too, of course. You can have them move around in response to whatever you'd like. Okay. So this one's a little funny because... Oh, actually, no, this will work fine, because I want the inside of the top here to be dark. And that's only there for a couple frames. And then the bottom appears. So... yeah, we can actually use this one layer I'm making next to do 2 different things. That's nice. So I'll add a couple more points to this so I can move it around enough. Let's do 8 points. And again, the reason I'm adding more points to a brush that's going to be covering a larger shape is so I can snake it around like you see here, and I don't have to make the brush width that huge, because then the texture just doesn't look that good. You lose some of the illusion of this if you make this too large. You want to keep it pretty large, at least for the style I'm going for, but don't overdo it. So this is green here. We want this to be Let's see, it's shadow, so I might want to go cooler. Yeah, we can always change this later too if we need to. It's something like that. Maybe not that much color though. That's something else. Just in general, I think if you're trying to go for a hand-painted look when working digitally, try not to oversaturate your colors so much, because that's a hallmark of digital painting, I think, is just to have super duper bright, vibrant neon colors. And it took me a long time to get over that. I used to make everything super dark and saturated, and it doesn't really work that way all the time. I mean, there's a place for that, of course, but not everywhere, and not with what I'm doing here. I'm trying to have more of a softer pastel look. In fact, that orange is just probably too vibrant now that I'm talking that up and pointing that out, but I can adjust that later. Yeah, this is looking good. It's a weird little glitch that's happening there. Oh, I have auto weld on, that's why. Okay, that is dangerous. In fact, it looks like I accidentally did some welding right there. There we go, yeah. Yeah, so if you're working with multiple strokes of brushes that have different colors assigned to them, make sure you have auto weld off, because if you have one color touch the line of a different color, they'll merge, and then you'll just have one color instead, and you might not catch that immediately, and then you'll see it later, and it'll be too late. You can't undo that. So be careful. That was almost, well, it was almost annoying. It wouldn't have been a disaster. Okay, so this is, it needs to be a little darker, I think. Yeah, we can go with that. Okay. Oh, so here you go. You can see that it's morphing back to the shape that I copied it from, because I forgot to delete those keyframes. So that's an easy fix. I just need to select the entire shape. You can select the entire stroke by clicking in between the vertices, in between the red dots, and then you select the whole thing. And then you go down here, find the red keyframes, and just delete them. Now it stays put, so we can go through the same, I don't know how many frames this is, 8 frames, something like that. Same thing here, so I have to keep these brushes fairly small, actually, because I don't want them to bleed into this lip too much, because again, I'm probably coloring this in something else, but I might not actually do that. As long as it stays green, I think it'll be okay. There we go. Yeah, that's looking good. And then that's it for that. I have to put it down here now. This, I guess I could put a little bit of a dark color here, but that's such a thin shape at that point that I don't think it's really necessary. So I'll continue with what I'm doing. We'll see if it needs to have that or not. Okay. Right, and this is something where I can actually make this bigger, because this edge, this outside edge of the shape, that's safe. I'm not worried about anything overlapping there. It's just this inside shape. I want to try and keep the edges a little cleaner. I don't want to overlap the green and the orange too much. Alright, let's go in there. Let's do that. That's a little funny. Huh. How's that? Sure. Okay. Let's go with that. And this. I wonder if the magnet tool would be better for this part. It's getting a little jumbled now. There's a lot of different shape layers that I've added. These frames go a little faster just because the shape isn't changing that much. I can get away with basically just scooting this up and that's it. Yeah, even here, I mean, I'm basically done with this frame already. It's gotta take a little more care than that, but yeah, it's getting close. Oh, okay, now I can actually just use the transform tool and, oh hey, it's a face. That's weird. Alright. Well, I don't want it to be a face, because that would be distracting, so let's put those down there, cover the mouth. That is the, yeah, here we go. I might have to get a little dirty with this stretch frame, this smear frame that I made. Okay, that's getting there. How about that? Yeah, that's probably okay. I'm actually going to go here, copy the keyframes from this earlier frame that's a bit less jumbled, and then bring it back down for this. I think that'll be a little easier. Yeah. There we go, that's the one I was looking for. See, it's a little hard to tell the green undercoat from the top coat of this darker color I'm putting on, and I guess that is one advantage to keeping everything clear and not stacking colors on top of each other, is it gets a little messy with all of your vector paths at this point. Oh good, this will be a little easier now because there's no top to this anymore, so I can afford to extend this out. Just kind of go nuts here and do whatever I want. Great. Okay. That's probably... Oh, that's strange. Looks like we lost the keyframes to that one. Why can we just do that then? I'm not really sure why that happened. Okay, let's go with that. Oh, that is really weird. These two seem to have a hard time working together. Okay, well I just used the freeze pose hotkey. I wonder if that'll clear this up or not. Okay, that's better. I wonder why it was doing that. Alright, well, that's the start of it, and you might have noticed that I also had this handle for the dump truck to come and pick up the dumpster and take everything. So I need one on the other side of the dumpster too. I just haven't added that yet, but that's easy to do. So this will follow the same thing. I'm thinking that most of this will be that same green color, maybe a slightly lighter green. The inside will be dark, and then I could actually have this shape here, the side, have this be the orange. Oh, actually, before I get into that, since I was saying that this orange might be a little too saturated, considering it's all the way at the very top there, why don't we try this? It just needs to be slightly less so. So let's try that out. Yeah, let's go with that. Okay. Sure. So now I will copy this again, but I'm actually going to put it onto another layer. This will be side dumpster brush. Put it here. This is a good example of making the brush size too large, because I think there's just too many white splotches here. If you compare this to making this a lot smaller and then adding some points, so you can do this. There, I think that looks better, because there's still white splotches, but the texture effect just looks a bit more sharp. I just prefer this kind of look. So I've got the brush layer on top and then the vector art layer on the bottom, and if I select both and say group with selection, that will put them both inside a folder. I can select the folder, go to masking, turn on hide all, and then it automatically selects the shape layer as a mask, and then it applies the brush that I added as something that is being masked. It's yeah, it says mask this layer, so we want that, and then we want the layer on the bottom to be added to the mask. And also, what I like to do is select exclude strokes and also expand mask by a pixel. The exclude strokes part is important, but you can see what it did there is now the black outline that I drew is on top of the mask layer. It's on top of the texture, which is what I want. And I would want that for here too, but I actually have to keep the line art layer and the fill layer separated in this case, and that's only because this is a frame by frame animation layer. What I've done here with the side mask, this is actually just a regular old vector layer, and I did some point animation to have it match the main dumpster body. So that's something to keep in mind. Oh, this is doing this again. See, you have to be, if you're copying a shape that you've already animated, you have to be sure to delete the keyframes, otherwise you're going to see that shift happen. But this is easy to do though. I can select it, go over here, delete them, and then it's fine. So now all I have to do is animate these to match the side, and that's pretty easy. This is a much more forgiving piece. So this is stretching out because it's flying up into the air, so I'm going to stretch out my stroke here, and then if I increase the size, oh, look at that. If I go really, really big, then it just almost becomes a solid color. So that might be fun to play around with that wiggling and animated with the multi-brush effect and frame-to-frame randomness on. That might end up looking really interesting, so that's something to try later. But for now I want to go back to what I had, which is that, and stretch that out a little bit. Yeah, this one's really easy. Cool. I actually like that look with the brushes a little bit thicker, so, or larger, yeah. And let's see how this looks if let's go to the first frame and do this. Make the green a little bit lighter. I mean, I guess it should be obvious that I did that, so. Something around there. I wonder if that's distracting or not. Let's go with it for now and see. Okay. Cool. Next, I will need. Let's do this black color first. I'm going to copy that. Actually, yeah. I'll copy this, and it's easier to bring this over. I will remember to delete the keyframes from before. That's good. And I only really need 4. Yeah, I just need the 4 vertices here, because all we're doing is covering this inner part here. In fact, I might only need the 2. What does it look like? It gets bigger, so yeah, I'll keep it as 4. If it never got larger than this shape here, this would be fine. Okay, we really have to work to keep this in check here. It'll help if I make the brush size smaller, then it's easier to see what's going on. There we go. That's better. Okay, we're missing one. There. There we go. That's what I wanted. Seven watching, that's really nice. I'm glad this is interesting to enough people. That's really cool. Okay, if anyone's just now joining and they're really confused as to what's happening, just tell me. I can catch you up or answer some questions. Just want to check here. I'm not actually missing any. No, okay. Okay, no questions. Good. Well, hopefully good. Hopefully that means I'm explaining everything and it's nice, and it doesn't mean that everyone just fell asleep or something. It is getting kind of late here, but different time zones exist. I'm sure people aren't here in the middle of the night. So after I add this dark color here to this hole that's in this shape, I'll see about adding the yellow color to the rim of this, because I think that might look good. And I think that'll be it for this shape. I will need to add the other handle on the other side of this, but you'll just barely see that peeking out from the side, so that's gonna not really be much of an addition. Oh yeah, and right here this gets really narrow. This was hard to even draw because I wanted to keep the line width a certain thickness, but it just gets so narrow here you can barely even see this. Yeah, and then you just don't see it at all anymore, so I'm just going to move those up, and okay. So keep in mind that this is another strange side effect of using a frame-by-frame layer for the main body of this prop. You don't see the mask I have applied to that unless I actually click on the layer that's set to be the mask. Then you can actually see this, you can get a better view of what this looks like. Yeah, okay, and then let's do it with the character too, just so you can see. So now I've got this character visible, and she's got a whole lot of the same thing going on, where she has all these different strokes that are applied to her different body parts. So I'm going to try playing this back with all of, I'm going to save this first there. I'm going to try playing this back now, but it's going to be a little choppy. Well, it's not so bad, actually. I guess getting this new computer set up was worth it, but usually when I'm animating a character, especially her, she has so many layers going on with so many of these masking effects and multi-brushes that I'm talking about here. I turn off brushes when I'm working like this, just because it improves the performance a lot. Oh, Jordan, hi. You're asking if I'm using the custom brushes to fill the forms. Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. I've got custom multi-brushes, and I use those inside of different masks I've made. So, for example, this character, her arm is a mask, and I have, you can see 4 different colors of brushes that have been applied here. If I turn the custom brush preview back on, you can really see them here. So they form a gradient that looks pretty nice on her. And I've been doing that in a bit more of a looser, sloppier look to this dumpster. There's a lot of brushes on my character here, so she looks a lot smoother and more filled in. I'm also not using white as a base for her. She has a tan color that's, you can see it up here in her shoulder. So she looks a lot more filled in. That's why. If I wanted to, I could go into the dumpster here and select this white color, and you know, if I set this to green, or no, sorry, in this case it would be yellow, it would look a lot different. And you know, that looks nice. Maybe I might go in later and do this. I'm not sure yet. But for now, the base color that is the mask for the dumpster, everything is white. And then here I've got all of the custom brushes are here, and they're being masked by this layer here. So it ends up looking like that. Yeah, so I'm going to hide her again because it just slows down my computer. Eventually I'm going to render this, and it's going to hopefully look really nice. So I don't have much left to do on this scene. I wanted to make this color here yellow. I'll do that next. I'll see if I can add the other... I need to draw it. Actually, I haven't done it yet, but I need to add the other handle here just peeking out from the right. And then actually, it might be good to add a lid to this dumpster that's just... if I show you this, excuse me, the storyboard. The storyboard itself actually has that. You can see that there's a lid just hanging off to the side there. And I haven't really added that in yet because it's not really necessary. It would be fun because you'd get this secondary motion of it flopping around as the dumpster gets kicked over, but at the same time, most of this dumpster is off the camera after it gets kicked over. And I could choose to move everything over to the right so it's more on camera, so I think I might skip on the lid for now, and if it turns out I want to move everything over so you see more of it being kicked over, then yes, I should add a lid, because you know, it could fold up as this falls down, and then after this lands on the ground, then it slams down and, you know, kind of flops over here. That might be fun. So, and it wouldn't take much effort to add that. I don't think it would just be a pretty flat shape. Alright, so before I get distracted and forget what I was doing, right here, okay. So I'll grab this orange color from the main layer and I'll put it onto the side layer here. Yep, that's what I want. Bring that over here. Let's make it smaller. Let's see if I can get this to look good. Yeah, so this is another tense example. You know, it might be nice to actually weld these together. Just a second here. Whoa, that's weird. Do I have to do this again? Oh, I guess I do. Okay, well, for whatever reason, welding it together made me lose my color. Oh, look at that. That's interesting. It's actually two different colors, two different shapes. Okay, I see. So what happened there was I wanted to weld those points together to actually make this a complete shape, just because it'll be a little easier to work with. And when I did that, because I had auto stroke selected here, when I welded the shapes together, it made a second stroke. So I actually had two strokes applied to the same... I had two different brushes applied to the same path. And that actually is a whole other subject that I could go into at a different stream, because I've used that to nice effect for one of my characters where you can have a single path that you've drawn, but it's actually controlling multiple strokes or multiple brushes, if that makes sense. That's something I can go into later. It's really fun to mess around with that. Okay, so we're just trying to get the orange brushes to be just the right size so they cover this area here, but they don't overlap much of the other areas. And this looks good right here. This will work. So make a keyframe on frame 67. Pretty used to that number by now. That's where this starts moving. Now you can see that the orange is bleeding in a little too much to that inner area, so I want to try to avoid that. There, I want to keep these straight if I can. I'm breaking the tangent on a lot of these, so what I mean by that is if I control the curvature of this side, it's not also affecting this. That's really important for a rectangle shape like this. If you want to do that, hold down the Alt key as you're dragging the handles around. I'm glad it's just Alt. I think in some other programs you have to hold Alt and Control and Shift or some crazy thing like that, and I never remember how to do it, but I think Alt is the first button I try when I'm in a new art program and I have to break a tangent on a Bezier curve, and it's actually Alt in this program. I'm really impressed. It's the first thing that I think to try. So I'm glad they're catering to me somehow. I don't know who here is from the Moho Pros Facebook group, or any part of the Moho community or anime studio community, but I think this Wednesday there's a webinar from one of the art directors for Puffin Rock from Cartoon Saloon, and they also have a very textural look to what they do in that program. All of their characters have a hand-painted look, kind of like what I'm doing. I mean, they've refined theirs to a really nice degree, and I'm really curious to see how they build their characters. I'm gonna be part of that, just listening in, because I'm dying to know what they do. I'm curious if they do anything like this, if they use multi-brushes, or who knows what they do. So it could just be that they use imported images that they've painted somewhere else. It couldn't be, they don't have to necessarily use vector art like what I'm doing. I guess technically what I'm doing is vector paths that are controlling raster images, because these brushes that I'm sampling here that are being strung along these paths, these are raster images that I'm using. I painted them in Manga Studio and I brought them into here, so this isn't entirely a vector project. It's a mix of both. It suddenly jumps all the way down there. Okay, well, we're really close to the end of this. This is just a little bit more here, and actually I need to make see, that happened earlier. You have to keep auto weld off, otherwise some scary things like that happen. That should be okay there. Okay, that just moves up there because you can't see it anymore, so there's that. Okay. I think next, I'll hide the brush on that for now. It gets kind of distracting since I can't actually see the mask effect unless I'm on that layer. So next, what is next? I think that'll be duplicate this. Perfect, okay. I'm going to delete that over here. There we go, I just wanted to do this. Let's see. I guess the best way to do this, well, first of all I have to make this a little bit smaller because of perspective and all that. And it just needs to be just barely visible like that. And just, I had one side flat and one side curved, and I need to reverse that for here. Just a little bit like that. Shrink the brushes a little bit, as long as it's not too weird. Yeah. Right, I remember now. How's that look? I think it's still a little too big. Yeah, I have to imagine the perspective lines working with me here. That's working, I think. How about that? Yeah, okay. That's better. Okay. I don't think this will take much. I think it's actually easier to just, yeah, copy the original frame. Oh yeah, so at this point I actually just flip this upside down. Yep, that's good. Move that down here. That's looking okay. There's actually no reason to have that stretched back so far. We're never going to see all of that. That's fine. something's a little weird here. I need to do something like that. Oh, good. I'm glad you're looking forward to the webinar too. And yeah, they actually do always do it at lunchtime, which does make it kind of awkward for me. I'm lucky enough to work at a place where I can take a lunch basically when I want. It's not a scheduled thing, so I usually try to just, I think it's at 11 a.m. for me, so I'm just going to take an early lunch and just go somewhere where it's quiet and watch it on my laptop. I mean, the only benefit to watching it live is you might get a chance to get your question answered by them, but there's no guarantee that they'll even get to your question at all, so... And, you know, you might not even need to ask anything, so I think just catching it later works just as well. I should have sketched this out before this was inked, because this perspective is way off now, and it's late, and I'm losing it. I'm not really getting it. Plus, because of the way the curvature works, when I move around these points, I get some weird effects. So then I'm not quite used to how the curvature tool works yet. I think this just needs to go down. I might just be overthinking this, to be honest, but this is something where I know no matter what I do right now, I'm gonna do a pass on this, and then tomorrow when I reopen this again to resume my work, I'm just gonna go, oh, that's terrible, what was I thinking, this looks awful, I should never draw again. So I'm not gonna worry about this too much, because I'm sure I'll see it tomorrow and I'll go, ugh, and then I'll fix it, so... But yeah, the perspective is definitely odd on here. Yeah, there you go. That's the problem. See, this plane here should be matching that. I mean, maybe I should be doing the same there, honestly, but didn't look weird before. But suddenly I'm
noticing all sorts of strange things. Defeated by a cube. Never stop going to life drawing. Plus, as this gets smaller, it might be helpful to decrease the line width just a little bit. Not too much, because I do want it to stay uniform, but something about like that, I think. Okay, that's getting somewhere. Might be a little too big now, though. There. Right. Yeah, that'll do. I'll just move this one up. That's pretty safe to just move this down. Yeah, that's what I mean. I have really long Bezier curve handles going, so moving certain things around like that just does really odd things. I'm not used to that. Like, you know, moving this point around, and you can see that not only is this curve moving, but this bottom curve is also getting affected by that, even though I have a point here. That's really strange. I wonder why it's doing that. I'm not really used to seeing that kind of effect, so I want to look more into that and learn about what's going on. So at this point, I don't think you'd actually see it, just with the way I'm treating the perspective here. I know I'm kind of fudging a lot of it, but so yeah, let's just leave it alone and just leave it at that. I don't think you'd see it. I don't really have these popping out. They're pretty flush with the side, so oh, look at that. I know why that's happening. I need to take these frames from frame 1 and put a keyframe there. That's all. There we go. And oh, right. Need to make sure these are also on interval 2 because that first frame wasn't. Oh, I see. I did this too early. There you go. Okay, this got a little funky too. This might be the case of I might be keyframing the position for these points, but I'm not keyframing the curvature on every frame. So on a later frame, when I do actually mess around with the curvature, it creates some in-betweens that do weird things like that. I think that's what's going on there. Okay, that's pretty good. I'd like the thickness of this orange lip here to stay about the same as that. But okay, that's good for now. Again, I think I'm going to refine that a bit later and take a good look at the perspective of it. Although it doesn't look too bad. Okay, so same as before. We need to, you know what would be easiest actually is if I duplicate the side brush, bring it down here. I need to get rid of all of the keyframes for everything on that layer. Move this over here. Gonna have to make everything smaller, but I'll do that in a moment. And then if I select both of these layers, group with selection, call it right side handle, and make this a mask. That go into here. That's already set to exclude strokes. That's awesome. I don't think I even need the green. You barely see any of it. I'll leave it just for color consistency since all this is built on top of the green, but it's really just, you would see the yellow outline and the dark inner part for this. That's it. There we go. This is the one that's still really big. Yeah, that's looking better. Okay, that's the first frame. Bring it over to... I need to fix that too, but I'll do that in a moment. There's frame 67. Put a keyframe there. Let's go down here and... there. Okay. Okay, just the same deal we've been doing this whole time. Go to the next frame, adjust the position of these brushes so they cover everything that you need. And that's it. I think I'll switch over to the magnet tool for these just because it's a little easier to click using that. There's no risk of accidentally selecting between the points of something. Instead, this only ever grabs the points. I think that's the advantage to using it over the transform points tool. That's what it's called. Yeah, I definitely do need to bring the green with me because that's the undercoat. So, what is the magnet hotkey? Isn't it? Oh, it's X. Okay. Yeah, this is a lot easier. There's also no risk of if you have weld points turned on of accidentally doing that. This shape is getting so small now that it's getting really hard to control everything. It's getting hard to position everything correctly. But it's almost done. This actually might be the last frame where you can see this, so that's good. Almost done. Let's just do that. Yeah, that's... oh, no, there's one more and it's even smaller. Okay. You know, I might just do that. Let me try and get the black in there, but it's so tiny. This is where this can backfire a little bit, is it can be hard to get details like this in. But I almost have it. Now the magnet tool is really coming in handy here. Okay, let's go with that. And alright. Okay, just about done. That happened again for some reason, but hey, that's okay. Interval 2. Okay, so other than assigning custom brushes and multi-brushes to the line art, this is actually finished. Cool. Yeah, I think I'll try doing a render of it real quick just to see how that looks. We can do it from frame 48 to frame 102. It's nice to have some hold frames where the object isn't moving, it's standing still, but then that really shows off how the textures are wiggling. So frame rate, all that's good. I'm guessing that if you tell it to overwrite, maybe that might cause an error, so I'm not going to tell it to do that. Alright, let's see how it renders. Oh, it's so fast. Okay. There's a little something going on here where it goes away for a frame. That's weird. I wonder, can I see that here? Oh yeah, there it is. Huh, okay. I wonder what's going on there. Well, alright. That's strange that that even showed up, because that's on an even frame. And I rendered it at half frame rate too, so it shouldn't show up, but you know, I'm not really sure. Okay, so let's do the next part. This won't take very long. I just want to finish this off by assigning a custom brush to the line art. My words are starting to fail me. Okay, let's see. Which one do I want to do? I have some saved already, some styles here that I use for my characters. We can do Rakitty outline, which is that. It might be best just to do this myself, actually. So. Let's go with graphite light. Let's try this one. I like spreading these apart a bit because it gives it kind of a fuzzier look that I think works well. Okay, so I just want to make sure that we've got it here. So you're going to see this white tearing effect on the edges of it, but that's actually just the stage, the preview itself kind of having a hard time with it. It actually renders just fine. So I like going with a sort of a dark slate blue when I do this, because then it almost looks like a pencil, which I like doing. So, and I think that's what I was already doing with the Rakitty color, but let me copy that color and go here, make sure to apply it to this as well. Select the same thing, graphite, that's 50, and assign the color. Yeah, if I render the frame, you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. Or it has this light blue look. Well, not light blue, but it's a it's a colored line art effect, which I'm always a big fan of, actually. So I'm gonna go with that. I think that'll work pretty well. It looks like the bottom of it didn't get that, so gotta keep that in mind. I should have done this to begin with, because now I have to go back and assign this color and this brush to a whole bunch of things, but I just wasn't thinking about that at the time. But plus, this means you guys get to see it, so that's good. But what's nice about the handles is that I only have to do that once, because it's a vector layer and I'm just using keyframes, and that's that. With the frame by frame layer for the main body of this, that I have to do this to every frame, and that's a bummer, but well, that's alright. Let me get rid of, let me get this over with the sides. This really, I don't think this will take as long as I'm thinking it will. Oh, this is important. I have to make sure to uncheck minimize frame to frame randomness for everything. So, hold on, let me go back here. I didn't do that for most of these. If I leave this checked, then it won't have that flickering effect on every frame, and it'll really stand out when some of these are flickering and others aren't. I still see that with my characters sometimes. There might be something that I forgot. A part of them, or some brush on them that I didn't uncheck this on, and then that just leads to some problems. Okay, there's only about 3 things to adjust on these handles, so that's good. Okay, that should be it for them. Let's see how bad this is going to be. I can actually just go to, yeah, here's the line art layer. Is there a way to just select all of the shapes? There's the shape select tool, but there's no way to select multiple shapes, I don't think, is there? Oh, well, that's most of them. I did do a nice job of connecting all these, so, oh, that's nice. Okay, maybe this will be okay. Yeah, maybe this isn't so bad. Okay, good. As long as I remember to check everything. This is why it's good to make a style, because then you can just set the style and forget about it. And if I ever have to change any of these values, I only have to change it once. So I should be doing that, but you know what? I've already committed to this, so I'm just gonna keep going. Now this is nice. Good. I'm glad that these aren't all completely separate shapes, and you know that they're all connected, which is nice. I wanted it to be that way, just to make things simpler. So how does this look with the color on it? I want to check that real quick. If I go back to this, how does that look? Yeah, that's nice. That'll match the characters, because they use a lot of that same color. It's a little strange because there's some black here, and I think that's because the fill layer has a little bit of black outline on it still. It's not just the white, so I might have to go back and clean that up, but so far it's okay. Okay, let's go back here. Select. Oh, that's all one. That's even better. That makes this really easy. How's everyone doing over there? All 5 of you. That, I mean, I don't want to have that sound condescending. 5 people is amazing. I don't do this very often. I'm new at this, so the fact that 5 people are actually here watching me do this stuff is really cool. I'm very thankful that everyone's actually here and hanging out with me. This is going on a little longer than I thought too. I'm going farther into this than I thought. Oh, hold on. Did I remember to uncheck that? I did? Okay, good. Oh, that's weird. Are there 2 shapes here? There are. So what happens if I do that? Oh, I don't want to do that. Huh. Well, okay. I'm gonna... Not that many left. I suppose for these frame-by-frame layers, the minimized frame-to-frame randomness doesn't matter unless it's a hold frame, like the first frame or the last frame, because these are only going to be on screen for one frame anyway, so I guess I don't have to worry about this as much, but just because I'm kind of a neat freak about this, I'll do it anyway. The brush spacing does matter though, because if I don't do that, okay, so there you go. So check this out. There's actually two. Huh, yeah. There are two different layers in some cases, so I should actually delete that one and select only this. Right? Yeah. There we go. Yeah, I want to just keep everything the same. Looks like there's still a little bit over here. I don't want any of that black. I just want it to be the dark slate color. Okay. A few other frames had that going on too, I think. I thought I saw it back there, but... The outlines here were missing, so I just wanted to add that real quick. Almost got it. I'm gonna add it to this too. Yeah, check out down there. There's... Huh, that's so strange. I'm glad I'm catching this, because if I have the dark blue outline, but then there's a black outline behind it, that's going to look not as I expected. It needs to just be this dark blue, and then it'll look how I want. So, good. I'm glad that I'm glad we're going through this. And this is doing the same thing, where it's just want the one. Yeah, there we go. Oh, wait, maybe not. Okay, whatever that is, I'm keeping. That should be. And I think I know why this is happening too. I went through earlier and combined each of these frames, so it's just one drawing, one shape combined. And I was merging a lot of strokes and welding a lot of points together, but I think by doing that I created extra shapes on top of each other, which is not good. So now I'm dealing with that now. There we go. That's fine. Okay. Yeah, see, when I select it, I want it to all just highlight at once and be one coherent shape. That's good. Oh, that was the last frame. Okay. Some of these got really that kind of thing. The line work is the line width wasn't that consistent. Okay. I can still talk, I promise. I know how to speak words. Alright. So I think the last... I mean, that could be it, or the last thing I could do is just for these first two frames here, add this, this lip color, which I think should be this lighter green. So, you know, let's just do that. Okay. I'm gonna do it this way, actually. I'm going to create a shape and have it just be here. And should it be the graphite color? No, I think I'll have it be the wash. Actually, sure, let's try keeping it as the graphite color, just to see what happens. And then I'll sample this green. Okay. Let's see what happens when I try and do this, huh? That goes there. That goes there. That goes there. That looks nice so far. I gotta deal with curving it just a little bit. Yeah, that's it basically. That's all I gotta do. Now, why is that happening? Don't know. Oh, there we go. Let's put that over there. There, that's good. Okay. So there's frame 67. And then I just need to move it once, just for this frame, and then those are the only two frames where the lip of the opening here is visible. So put that there. Get some curved line action going here. And that should be it, actually. Yeah. I mean, again, it looks strange because the masking doesn't work unless I have this selected, so okay. Oh, right. Actually, one more thing. At this point, on the third frame, just gonna put that way over here and hide it so you don't see it. There, okay. Now, let's see. I guess what I'll do now is... Yeah, let's wrap this up. Okay, I'm going to do a complete render from frame 1 to frame 120 of this dumpster. I already have my character rendered on her own from earlier. So, let's see. In this case, I want image sequence. I'm going to render at the full dimensions. This is presumably the final file. So, this is scene 68. Choose a folder. Scene 68. I have about 150 scenes in this movie, so there's a lot. This is going to be called dumpster. Select that folder. 68 dumpster, and hope it doesn't crash. I think the black means there's an alpha channel because I'll need that
Let's hope that is what it means. Yeah, I really like how that dark blue pencil color looks there. Okay, so we've got that. Let's go into here, my After Effects file. Let's bring in this background. I was using that earlier. Oh, hold on. No sequence. I don't want a sequence there. This is exciting. We get to see what it looks like. So I'll bring in the character. I need to interpret this. I need to make sure the frame rate is actually 12 frames per second because that's what I'm rendering at. And here's the dumpster. Good. It is. It does have an alpha channel. That's what I want. Dumpster's here. Set that to 12 frames per second, and then let's do it. Okay. There's the character. There's the background. Let's put it right around there. And then here's the dumpster. I need to add some shadows to these later, but okay, let's render it. There we go. Okay, sweet. That's looking really nice so far. I think I might want to scoot these two over to the right a little bit. There is a character in the foreground here that's talking. You're looking over their shoulder as this is happening. But still, I could even move that over to the right a little bit. But this is good. This is looking nice so far. Yeah, I might actually increase the brush size on a lot of this, just so that it looks a little boily right now. I guess like it's water that's boiling, you know. And if I increase the size, it might look a bit more like my character here. Here, let me zoom in on her. Like if you look at what she's doing, she has that sketchy hand-painted look, but it's not quite so vicious like this, you know, like this. I might need to tone this down a little bit so it matches her, but it's getting there, you know, and it was hopefully a good example of how I'm coloring these characters. There could also be a different brush that I use, because I don't think I'm necessarily using this wash brush on her. I think she has something else happening. It's a bit more streaky, I think. So I could do that too. And like I said earlier in the other stream, the backgrounds are actually legitimate watercolor. They're painted by hand by a friend of mine that I commissioned. So she sends me the high-res scans of them, and then I use them like you see right here. So, okay, that's the end of the stream and the tutorial. Hopefully it counts as one. So I also hope that answered some questions. I'll be doing more of these because they're a lot of fun, and they motivate me to actually work. I mean, I colored a dumpster tonight. That's cool. So I hope I can keep up the pace and continue on this. The next thing, aside from maybe cleaning up the textures on this and making it a bit more calm, is I've got this character in the foreground that's actually talking while this happens. So that won't take much, though. I'm just going to move the body around a bit, and the head is facing away from us, so you don't really see the mouth. So I may not even have to lip sync it. We'll see. But alright, that's the end. If you leave comments on the video after it gets published to YouTube as a video, I can come back and answer them there. So don't worry if you missed me. I'm pretty active on checking my videos for comments. So alright. Thank you again, everybody, for tuning in. Hopefully I'll do another one soon. Probably this weekend. We'll see. Alright. Have a good night or morning, depending on where you are.